These videos will make you question everything you thought you knew about our place in the universe, as the truth can no longer be denied. We've finally captured eerie alien encounters on tape, but that's not all. They align with ancient texts and artifacts, declassified documents, and even eyewitness testimonies, explaining those mysterious crafts in the sky. These aren't your typical blurry UFO sightings. Join us as we reveal compelling videos and undeniable proof that will make you believe in aliens. Alec Newald's 10-day disappearance. In 1989, what was supposed to be a 3-hour drive from Rotorua to Auckland turned into a bizarre, unexplained 10-day disappearance. When Alec Newald finally reached home, his friends and family greeted him with cheers and confusion. Where had he been? Alec had no memory of what happened during those lost days. But soon, troubling symptoms emerged, and fragments of his memory began to return. He hadn't just lost time. He had been abducted by aliens. Alec remembers driving when everything around him suddenly vanished. In an instant, he felt weightless, like his body no longer existed, as if it had been forced through a sieve. He thought he was dead, entering the afterlife. But what awaited him was far stranger. He was surrounded by tall, slender beings with oversized heads and small eyes. They spoke directly into his mind without words. One of them introduced himself as the guardian of that place and promised to make Alec's stay as easy as possible. Alec was given a strange suit that helped him understand their thoughts and emotions. The guardian told him he could leave any time, but urged him to stay and learn. Though the idea of returning home was tempting, Alec's curiosity won out. He decided to explore. They took him to their city, a vast, orderly place stretching far beyond the horizon. Its scale and design dwarfed anything on Earth, even though Alec noted that no human city could match it, squeezed between oceans and deserts. In his book, Co-Evolution, an interplanetary adventure, Alec sketched the towering buildings and shared secrets the beings revealed about Earth. The beings told him that Homo sapiens and Cro-Magnon humans were created by another race of humans 70,000 years ago, solving the mystery of the Cro-Magnon. Afterward, they made a final species, humans with advanced minds who needed no further changes. A blue-skinned alien named Xena explained this to Alec. Her group, the Blues, lived in a desert world called Haven, filled with living buildings. She revealed that Alec needed his special suit to survive the harsh conditions. Xena spoke of ancient artifacts left on Earth, pyramids and monuments, intended to awaken humanity at the right time. She warned of selfish, unseen forces drawn to Earth's beauty, much like figures of chaos in mythology. Using mental images, she showed Alec future events, including environmental disasters in Japan and the Gulf of Mexico. She warned of a dark force working to conquer Earth, manipulating human DNA for centuries to stunt their growth. This dark force, the enemy of enlightenment, was deeply embedded among humans, echoing ancient stories of humanity's fall. After these mind-bending conversations, Alec returned to his car, unaware that 10 days had passed. His encounter had changed him forever. When he first shared his story, it caused an uproar. Scientists, the police, and even the CIA swarmed him with aggressive questions as if he had committed a crime just by talking. Things grew worse when Alec noticed a strange car following him. Even after moving to a new neighborhood, the mysterious vehicle appeared again, and soon, the agents made direct contact. The questioning became absurd. They even accused him of Nazi ties simply because his father had German ancestry, despite Alec having lived in New Zealand all his life. They warned him his life would become miserable if he didn't cooperate. Alec refused, slamming the door on them, but his defiance set off a cascade of trouble. His once thriving car dealership collapsed after the 19 stock market crash. Left without a business license, Alec began selling cars privately. At an auction in Auckland, he met Jeff Wright, a trustworthy man who offered access to imported vehicles. For 9 months, they worked together, until Alec realized Jeff had been feeding him stolen cars. The police pounced, eager to pin Alec as the mastermind. Over 2 grueling years, Alec fought the case through 20 court appearances, facing relentless pressure to cooperate. He realized he was up against a force far larger than just the justice system, an intricate web meant to crush anyone who refused to play along. Financially ruined, Alec couldn't afford a proper lawyer and had to rely on a court-assigned one. Throughout the trial, the agencies pushed him to share more about his alien experience, desperate for answers. But Alec stayed silent. When the case finally ended, he was sentenced to 6 months in prison, where he reflected on everything he had learned and the price of truth. After his release, Alec began writing for Nexus magazine, documenting the bizarre events that altered his life forever. In its second edition, his book dives deep into his experience with the aliens, the hidden forces on Earth, and the dark web of institutions trying to control the truth. The question remains, why did the agencies go to such lengths to silence Alec? Their actions suggest one thing: they believed him. They feared his story because it contained a truth capable of shattering the world's understanding of reality. Even high-ranking figures like Lord Admiral Hill Norton, former head of the British Ministry of Defence, hint at such possibilities. He once said, "There is a serious chance we are being visited, and have been visited, by beings from other worlds." The question of who they are and what they want should be the subject of serious scientific inquiry, not dismissed by tabloid mockery. Alec Newell's story is just one piece of a vast puzzle, revealing the extent of the government is willing to go to hide the truth. Speaking of puzzles, the next piece of evidence resembles an astronomical enigma, something far beyond the capabilities of mere humans to accomplish: the Nazca Lines. In September 1926, deep in the deserts of Nazca, Peru, archaeologist Toribio Mejia Chespe led a team on an exciting expedition. Their mission was to explore rumors of a hidden underground city, a massive acropolis filled with hundreds of ancient mummies. On getting to the site, the team was baffled by the sight of these Chinchorro mummies, who were over 7,000 years old at that time. The well-preserved bodies were carefully wrapped in thick cotton cloth and decorated with colorful images of mystical creatures and animals, something that the archaeology team had never seen. After days of research, one afternoon Zespi decided to take a break from the dusty ruins. He climbed a nearby hill to stretch his legs and enjoy the desert breeze. But when he reached the top, he was greeted with something unexpected, a sight so astonishing it made him forget the mummies altogether. Below him, carved into the dry, rocky desert, were thick lines stretching endlessly across the plain. Some were straight as arrows, running far beyond what the eye could follow. At first, Zespi thought they were old roads or trails, but something didn't add up. Many of the lines crossed right over hills and mountains, paths no sensible road builder would ever take. As he explored further, Zespi realized these weren't ordinary trails. Some lines formed perfect geometric shapes: rectangles, spirals, triangles, and squares, some the size of entire football fields. What could these strange markings mean? Zespi knew he needed a better view, so he contacted the Peruvian Air Force, asking them to fly over the desert and take photographs from above. When the pilots soared over the area, what they saw left them speechless. The lines weren't just random, they spread across hundreds of miles, forming giant patterns and figures. Among the designs were spirals, zigzags, and enormous drawings of animals: birds with outstretched wings, a long-legged spider, and even a monkey with a curled tail. The designs were so large that they could only be fully seen from the sky. For the first time, the pilot saw the full scale of the incredible formations. These mystery markings today, called the Nazca Lines, are spread across the desert, and so far over 800 lines have been identified, along with hundreds of geometric shapes and at least 100 animal figures. Some lines stretch for thousands of meters, with the longest reaching up to 25 miles. What's truly amazing is that many of these lines are perfectly straight, even though they were made centuries ago, a construction that will rival modern surveying tools. Since the discovery of the Nazca Lines, some of the brightest minds in the world have tried to uncover their creators. At first, experts thought the Inca might have made them. However, the Inca civilization rose to power in the 12th century and ruled until the Spanish conquest in the 1500s, long after the lines were formed. Researchers have dated the Nazca Lines to between 300 BC and 800 AD, meaning they predate the Inca by many centuries. Some are nearly 2,500 years old. To make the case more complex, there are almost no historical records from the earlier cultures of Peru. The Inca, and later the Spanish, destroyed much of the evidence of the people who lived there before them. Despite decades of study, the mystery of who made them remains unsolved. All evidence points to an ancient civilization that disappeared long ago, or perhaps something not of this world, like aliens. How were the lines formed? Well, the surface of the ground is covered with a dark, rocky layer called desert varnish. By scraping away this blackened layer, whoever created the lines revealed a lighter surface beneath, creating bold, picture-like designs in the sand. The Nazca Desert itself is special, as it is one of the driest places on Earth, with almost no rain. Thanks to this dryness, the lines have been preserved for thousands of years. They still look today just as they did when they were first made. Over a decade after Zespi first stumbled upon the discovery, in 1940, while studying ancient irrigation systems in the area, American historian Paul Kosak noticed something surprising. Some of the lines seemed to align with important astronomical events, like the rising and setting of the sun during solstices. Without any doubt, he suggested that the Nazca Lines might have functioned as a giant calendar, used to track the changing seasons. Kosak's idea sparked a wave of research into the possible connection between the lines and the stars. Scholars like William Duncan and Gerald Hawkins dove deeper into the astronomical meaning of the geoglyphs. Duncan found that some shapes matched up with constellations, while Hawkins explored how the lines might align with solar and lunar events. Their work added to the theory that whoever made those lines used them as a tool to track celestial movements. The Nazca Lines are undeniably linked to an extraterrestrial mystery, with the government seemingly hiding the truth about alien presence on Earth. In the next case, a military officer encounters a UFO up close and captures it on record. The Tic Tac Shaped Object. In 2023, a Navy officer was called to share what he called the Tic Tac Shaped Object he saw during a flight in 2004. At the time, retired Navy Commander David Fravor was the commander of the DA-18F squadron that is stationed overseas at the U.S. Nimitz. In an earlier interview in 2021, Fravor revealed he was conducting training exercises with the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, along with Lieutenant Commander Alec Dietrich, when the advanced radar on the USS Princeton, a ship in their training group, picked up multiple anomalous aerial vehicles beyond the horizon. They were reaching down from 80,000 feet in seconds. Therefore, they had to pause to investigate the situation, and that was when they noticed a small, white, tic-tac-shaped object hovering over the waters. They watched with two of their other colleagues, but only Fravor boldly approached the object for a closer look, and that was when he observed that the object mirrored his movement, which meant it was aware of his presence. In describing the object, Fravor said the object was about the size of his FA-18F with no wings, markings, or trails. When he decided to intercept the unidentified object, it accelerated so much that it nearly disappeared. Still, it was detected again 60 miles away from them less than a minute later. Fravor testified that what they encountered was beyond the technology capacity and capability available at that time compared to the richness of technology that is available now. Apart from Fravor, there is another testimony of other naval officers' encounters with UFOs. Ryan Graves revealed that he met with unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, during training missions he participated in. David Frisch also added his experience of UFOs while working as an intelligence officer with the Air Force and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. However, a recent report showed that the office in charge of monitoring UAPs has documented over 500 sightings since 2004. Military officials added that most of these incidents have unclear explanations and many remain unresolved. Spotting a foreign spacecraft is definitely scary, but coming face to face with an alien on camera would completely shake you to your core. The supernatural experience. That's exactly what happened to Antonio Villas-Boas, a 23-year-old Brazilian farmer. On the night of October 15, 1959, while working in the fields near São Francisco de Sales to escape the heat, he noticed a red star glowing in the sky. As he watched, the light grew larger, steadily descending toward him. To his shock, it wasn't a star. It was an egg-shaped craft with a glowing red light at the front, and a rotating dome on top. What began as a curious sight soon became the start of an extraordinary encounter. Antonio was so afraid that he decided to run when he noticed the object had 3 legs as it descended. At first, he hid in his tractor, but later started running on foot, but he was quickly overturned by a 5-foot-tall humanoid wearing gray coveralls and a helmet. Antonio described him as a creature with blue eyes that communicates with barking or yelping sounds instead of spoken words. He added that 2 similar creatures showed up to restrain him and pull him aboard their craft. Antonio recounted being completely covered in a strange gel before being led into a large semicircular room. There, his blood was drawn from his chin, and he noticed odd red symbols inscribed on the doorpost. After being left alone in a gas-filled chamber for about half an hour, which made him violently ill, a stunning humanoid female entered. She matched the height of the other beings he had encountered. Still, she had a pointed chin, striking blue cat-like eyes, and long platinum blonde hair accented with reddish pubic and underarm hair. Antonio felt an overwhelming attraction to her, and they slept together. However, instead of a direct kiss, she bit his chin. Afterwards, she smiled, gently rubbed her belly, and gestured upwards, which Antonio interpreted as her intention to raise his seed in space. This notion filled him with anger, feeling like he had been reduced to an experiment for the aliens. Following this encounter, he was dressed and given a tour of the ship. During this tour, he spotted a clock-like device and attempted to take it as proof of his experience, but the beings denied him. When the tour concluded, they escorted him off the ship, leaving him in awe as it departed, shining brightly in the night sky. Upon returning home, Antonio realized that 4 hours had passed, affirming his belief that aliens had indeed visited him. His extraordinary story quickly went viral, but many dismissed it as mere imagination. Yet recent revelations from NASA have unveiled a chilling truth that cannot be ignored. Aliens on Mars. On February 25, 2014, 554 Martian days after the Curiosity rover landed, it transmitted a fresh set of high-resolution images back to Earth. At first glance, they seemed like typical photos, showcasing Mars's dusty hills and barren terrain. However, amateur archaeologists noticed something unusual. One image from Dingo Gap revealed a shape resembling a human statue, sparking immediate intrigue. The statue-like figure was only the beginning. In other images, there were objects that looked like a sarcophagus, a Buddha statue, and even a cross. These strange finds raised a profound question. Could there be ancient artifacts on Mars? Scientists have debated these sightings for years. Many dismissed them as a result of pareidolia, a psychological phenomenon where the mind sees familiar patterns, like faces in clouds. NASA supported this explanation, claiming the objects were natural rock formations. However, some experts remained unconvinced. Joe White, an image restoration specialist with 25 years of experience, believed the shapes were too precise to be random. He argued that the rover's close-up images showed more than just rocks. There were details resembling statue heads and stone blocks, some with what appeared to be carvings or inscriptions. Frustrated with the reduced quality of the images, White used his restoration skills to sharpen the photos and enhance the contrast. One image in particular stood out. It featured what looked like a face with distinct eyes, a nose, and a mouth. There was also a shape resembling an ear, and the head was elongated, possibly due to a headdress, though part of it seemed broken. The statue appeared to be buried up to its chin, suggesting that more of it could be hidden beneath the Martian sand. What puzzled White most was how much the figure resembled statues found in ancient civilizations on Earth, especially in Central and South America. Could there be ruins of a lost civilization on Mars? Ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer might be yes. For years, they have argued that Mars could hold the remains of an ancient civilization. They point out that some of the formations on Mars bear a striking resemblance to Earth's structures. Among the formations are pyramid-like structures, standing stones, and even a sphinx-like figure. The area known as Cydonia is home to several of these strange formations, including the famous face on Mars. But the face is not the only oddity there. Cydonia contains a massive pentagonal pyramid along with clusters of other pyramidal shapes. Theorists suggest that the layout of these structures aligns with the Pleiades constellation, just as some ancient monuments on Earth do. This similarity raises the possibility of a deeper connection between Mars and Earth's ancient civilizations. These images from the Curiosity rover undoubtedly provide evidence that we are not alone in the universe. Yet, for more than half a century, mainstream media has attempted to suppress this information. However, the case from the 1960s was too significant to be dismissed. Trouble in New Hampshire. On the night of September 19, 1961, Betty and Barney Hill's lives took a mysterious turn that would become one of the most credible alien encounter accounts ever documented. As an interracial couple from New Hampshire, they lived busy lives. Barney worked grueling night shifts at a post office 120 miles away. At the same time, Betty managed child welfare cases for the state. Their few moments of downtime were spent at church or participating in civil rights activities. Desperate for a break, the couple decided to take a long overdue honeymoon. With less than $70, they set off on a 3-day getaway. On the last night of their trip, they stopped at a diner in Vermont for coffee to fuel the final leg of their drive back to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Despite the threat of rain, wind, and an incoming hurricane, Barney decided to drive through the night. They left the diner around 10 that evening, expecting to reach home between 2 and 3 in the morning. But fate had other plans. While driving along a remote mountain road, they noticed a strange light trailing their car. At first, they dismissed it as an optical illusion, perhaps a trick of their car's movement, yet the light seemed to play with them, slipping behind trees and reappearing over ridges like it was toying with them in a surreal game of cat and mouse. Growing uneasy, they pulled over multiple times to investigate through binoculars. Betty soon realized this was no ordinary light, a rotating, hovering object. Alarmed, Barney stopped the car, leaving the engine running. He grabbed a handgun hidden under the seat and snatched the binoculars from Betty's hands, rushing to confront whatever was in the sky. As Betty sat stunned in the car, Barney stood frozen, staring through the binoculars at something massive, larger than a jet, yet eerily round and flat. He saw strange gray beings gazing back at him through rows of windows on the craft. Paralyzed by fear, Barney tried to reach for his gun but found himself unable to move. A calm yet commanding voice echoed in his mind. "Don't lower the binoculars." At that moment, he realized they were about to be taken. In sheer panic, Barney sprinted back to the car, yelling for Betty to get ready. Just as she tried to get a better look at the mysterious object, they heard a series of sharp beeping noises from the trunk, and everything went black. When the couple regained consciousness, they found themselves 35 miles further along the road, with 2 hours of their night missing. They eventually reached their Portsmouth home, not at the expected 2, but closer to 5 that morning. At first, the Hills were reluctant to share what had happened, but strange dreams and unexplained sensations haunted them, pushing them to seek answers. Under hypnosis with psychiatrist Dr. Benjamin Simon, their buried memories resurfaced, revealing they had been abducted by extraterrestrial beings. During the abduction, they were taken aboard the craft, separated, and subjected to physical examinations before being returned to their car. The Hills later documented their story in a 1966 book, The Interrupted Journey, co-authored with John G. Fool, and 3 years later, another family came in contact with similar beings, the Reed family UFO encounter. On the night of September 1st, 1969, something extraordinary occurred as the Reed family drove across Sheffield Bridge in Massachusetts. They hadn't expected anything unusual, but their experience left them stunned and transformed forever. In fact, this encounter marked a significant milestone. It was the first time a UFO sighting was officially recognized by a historical society in the United States. On that fateful night, Thomas, the eldest son of Nancy Reed, sat in the back seat with his younger brother, Matthew. At the same time, their mother drove, and his grandmother rode in the passenger seat. They were enjoying candies, but that moment of normalcy ended abruptly. A strange light began seeping through the bridge's wooden boards. As they crossed to the other side, the family noticed a glowing sphere of white light floating above them, with beams of light shooting out like lasers from all directions. The beams quickly folded back into the sphere, and the object began trailing their car. Matthew pointed out another glowing sphere partially submerged in water near the side of the road. Suddenly, everything around them felt strange, like they were underwater. The car slowed, and they heard a scraping noise like stones dragging against the fender. Then silence. Looking left, they saw a disc-shaped object hovering over the fields, its shape like the shell of a giant turtle. The three objects, the glowing spheres and the disc, shifted into a triangle, surrounding the Reed's car at the center. Then, without warning, the inside of the car exploded with a brilliant, blinding light. That's the last thing any of them remembered. When they regained consciousness, things were not as they had been. Nancy and her mother had somehow switched seats, the car's ignition was off, and the headlights had gone dark. Thomas had vague, dreamlike memories of an enormous space resembling an airplane hangar, far larger than any ship they could have imagined. Strangely, the Reeds weren't the only ones to witness something bizarre that night. Around 40 residents across Berkshire County reported seeing UFOs, causing confusion and dividing the community. Though only 9, Thomas was determined to share what he experienced. He recalled other encounters in the years leading up to that night. In 1966, he noticed strange lights in the hallway of his home. The next thing he knew, he was staring up at a UFO in the woods. He and his brother were invited aboard, where they were shown a projection of a willow tree. A year later, the boys found themselves back on the alien vessel, hearing the eerie sound of slamming doors before suddenly reappearing at home, safe in their mother's arms. These encounters haunted Thomas, but the more he shared, the more backlash he faced. His family's reputation suffered as well. Locals didn't believe their story, leading to constant scrutiny and bullying. Fights broke out at their family-owned diner, and the police had to intervene several times. The relentless judgment and skepticism caused deep pain for Thomas, disillusioning him with other people. A year after the encounters, the Reeds gave up the diner and moved to Great Barrington, Massachusetts, hoping to escape the shadow of their experiences. For years, Thomas fought to keep the story alive, despite the toll it took. His account was featured in the Netflix series Unsolved Mysteries, alongside other bizarre encounters with people like Tommy Warner, Melanie Kirchdorfer, and Jane Green. However, perhaps the most unexpected recognition came when the Great Barrington Historical Society officially validated Thomas's story, making it part of local history. Debbie Opperman, the director of the society, recognized the controversial nature of the decision, noting that not all board members agreed. 3 out of 9 strongly opposed it. However, the majority believed the testimonies were too significant to overlook. Opperman stated, "This means we believe Thomas's story is real," acknowledging that the decision would likely attract criticism. She emphasized that the society had thoroughly reviewed the evidence and felt confident that the events were genuine. Thomas's story has also found a place at the International UFO Museum and Research Center in Roswell, New Mexico. Additionally, a new exhibit is being developed in Great Barrington, ensuring that the extraordinary experience of the Reed family will be preserved and remembered. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.